Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast right here on the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, brought to you by GamblersWorld.net, where we guarantee all our selections. If you don't win, you don't make a profit, we will credit your account back the exact amount of your purchase price on all single-game, multi-game daily packages, as well as subscription plans of 30 days or fewer. You can find me and Chip there. You can find 8 other great handicappers there. But the one exception we've had over the last 3 years, the one guy we've allowed to keep continuing doing shows on this is none other than Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com. Doug, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, Ross. Nice weekend. Hope if there's any mothers out there that happen to be watching this, hope you had a great Mother's Day. So that was all good. And you know what? We're just moving right along. I've had a really good May. Yesterday wasn't my best day, but you had a really good May thus far, and so really happy with that. Geez, I got to remember all the numbers. Well, let's just put it this way. I'm not going to go in all the detail. In the NBA, the NHL, the Major League Baseball, and props, I'm up over 60% on all of those on current runs. Okay, so nice. Everything just across the board has been going very well. And happy to report it, and look just to continue it all the way through the end of the month. That's for sure.
There you go. Consistency is what it's all about. Doug has proven to be exactly that over the last 2 decades, and you could find a lot of his top 10 finishes on various independent sports monitors across the internet. And I'm sure if you need him to share that with you, he'd be more than obliged to share that with you. Speaking of a guy who's been consistent, I'd like to tell you he's been doing it for just a little over 2 decades like us. But his longevity speaks volumes in this business. He's been doing it a long time. Mr. Chip Chirimbes, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. It was a great Mother's Day for us, Ross. We swept the Megabuck board in both NBA, easy winner in Indiana, and Major League Baseball, another easy winner with the Mets. Actually, 2-run home run in the bottom of the ninth. Actually won that game for New York. But it's always great when you win your big play. 3-1 in baseball yesterday. And our Megabucks are now up to, I believe it's 13-5 for the NBA playoffs, which, it's 13-6. But, still we're just about that 70%. We're looking to get there tonight. We have a big game winner between Oklahoma City and Dallas. And baseball's just trotting right along. We just grind it out each and every day.
Yeah, 13-6, somewhere around 68%.
Yeah.
We'll take that all year long. It's a difficult percentage to attain over a long period of time. But when you're zeroing in on best bets or Chip's iconic Megabucks plays, that at one time was the A play, he does very, very well with those. So they are trending, I should say, to go at a higher percentage than the majority of his plays. However, when you combine them all together, it's still a pretty damn good win percentage for Chip Chirimbes. Chip, today is May the 13th.
Yep.
Tell us about this date.
All right, some big days on May 13th, and it doesn't always have to be a Friday, in which it's Bobby Valentine's birthday. And on Friday the 13th, he actually broke his leg, shattered it, and his career was derailed from that point. But what I have to say is, in 1955, Mickey Mantle was at his height, and he was like that blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy from Oklahoma. Everyone loved him. Hit 3 home runs at Yankee Stadium on this date in 1955. Ross, the shortest one was 453 feet, and this is not in the live ball era, that's for sure. This is in the mid-50s. And also on this date, I remember going to buy the New York Daily Illustrated News for 5 cents and seeing a full-page picture of Stan the Man Musial lashing out his 3,000th career hit against the Cubs, which happened in 1958. I was 9 years old at the time, but Stan was the man. And it's just memories from when you were a kid, just seeing the back of that newspaper with 3,000 across and Musial's beautiful swing. And that May 13th is it. There's a few other things I could throw at you, but what the heck? We're doing baseball right now.
Yeah, but you know what? You mentioned the Mickey Mantle feat, 3 home runs in the game, and that just when he came up. I'm not sure when they sent him down. He came up, and then they sent him down to the minors for a short stint. Then
that was in 51. That was his rookie year, and he was like ready to quit, I believe, that the story goes. And then his father just like put everything in his suitcase and says, "You're not a man." And then Mickey, his career is legendary. It's really too bad at the end when he was so hobbled that his career average dropped below 300, ended up at 298. And always, because I was a Willie Mays guy, when I used to get into arguments or conversations with people, I said, we qualify only 300 hitters. So that would leave Mickey out, and that's a sin. That's really a sin.
It's a shame of why he was hobbled. And a lot of you youngsters out there or young people out there can't relate to this. But back in the old days at Yankee Stadium, Doug, there was a drainage system in center field where they use an actual almost look like a mini sewer kind of thing with a metal plate over it and such. And Mickey coming in for a line drive tripped over that and ripped his knee apart. And at that time, before that injury happened, he wasn't only an elite power hitter, he had a lot of speed and stole a lot of bases. So
he was a great bunter, Ross. The guy from the left side, if he laid down the bunt, I mean, it was easy for him, and he could do it. He was a great bunter, and it's kind of unusual for power hitters, you know, to be able to do that. From the left side, he would drag bunt, and they, in those days, they gloriously give up a single for him. And not have to worry about him hitting into the short porch.
Could you imagine if in these days where they the third baseman will play way off the line against a left-handed hitter, he would have had a field day. But anyway, Doug, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but I caught something on YouTube the other day, just stumbled upon it by accident. The 10 longest home runs hit in Major League Baseball history. Okay. And it was I really enjoyed the video. And I know that one, Mickey Mantle hit a 518-foot home run at Washington when they were the Senators back then in the American League that almost went completely out of the ballpark. But anyway, your thoughts, and then we'll get on to what people are patiently waiting for.
Yeah. Well, just and for somebody wanting to let's just say have an updated version of it, and unfortunately, the parallel seems to be happening when Mike Trout first came up. There was a lot of comparisons because he was a bigger guy to Mickey Mantle. And as we go along and in their careers, you know, outstanding for several years. And all of a sudden, a few injuries started piling up. And all of a sudden, things, you know, I mean, there's a parallel, or you can make a parallel in terms of the two careers, what's happened to both these guys, to where they, you know, should have been playing, you know, just outstanding baseball well into their, you know, mid to late 30s. And, you know, unlikely that either one will, or Mickey Mantle didn't. And it doesn't look like Mike Trout's going to either.
And, you know, Doug, about in New York, my buddies, he had such a similarity to Mickey Mantle that they used to call him Mickey Trout. And instead of Mike Trout. And, you know, the injuries that just like plagued the end of his career here, which is really tarnished it. It's really too bad because, I mean, he was so outstanding for a decade. But by the way, Ross, I got to tell you this. May 13th, there's been a Gary Sanchez sighting. And,
I saw him the other day, and I thought of you. Yeah.
He started from Milwaukee, and he's upped his average this year. He's really had a vast improvement.
213.
He's hitting 6 points higher than he did last year at 224. And that 218 last year was already 30 points higher than the year before when he hit 170. So he's on the comeback trail. Of course, the New York Yankees ERA has dropped one full run without him behind the plate. And pitchers are now happy to throw their key pitch to any catcher except for this Wells.
He definitely was. But, he had a great arm, but he was a liability defensively.
Yeah. And you know he was awful strong. He can give you 30 homers, but you're going to get 200 strikeouts and a lot of pass balls.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Chip mentioned Bobby Valentine, and again, a lot of you excuse me. And a lot of you don't remember him if you're in a younger generation. He did manage the Mets at one time. He was a very highly touted player coming out of the MLB draft. And then he got to the major leagues, I think, at the age of 21. Chip could. Well,
he started the playoffs for the Dodgers against the Giants in 71. And, you know, it's seen what happened to him. He was a top draft choice by the Dodgers. And they were expecting to take Tim Foley, who was a California guy, and the Mets were expecting to take Valentine. And they actually switched roles at the last minute, and Bobby ended up in L.A. But
and Chip, and by the way, Chip played high school baseball against Bobby Valentine.
Yeah, we played with each other. We were teammates much of the time. Yeah.
There you go. So there's some great history. Anyway, I know a lot of you out there are saying waiting patiently for the free picks in the NBA, and we're going to give them to you. You know, we're going to start with Doug Upstone because he's got two props that he does. NBA props and props in general. Doug has made a killing with these this year on his pay side of things. So, Doug, take it away. You might want to fill the folks in about your prop history and then get right into your picks.
Absolutely. So yes, of late, and primarily it's been a mixture of NBA and Major League Baseball, but on a 63.6% run. So that has been good. But going back all the way to December, I am right on the nose at 60%. Okay. I don't have the number in front of me exactly how many props it was, but I happened to do that probably was Saturday. And so it's been a really good run on props just across the board. And that's just in a variety of sports. So let's get to a couple of props today, looking at the two games. First up, Cleveland and Boston. Now, Donovan Mitchell, as we are all aware, he is their do-everything performer. If he leaves this franchise after this season, well, Cleveland's going to take a major step backward, in my opinion, unless they get somebody to replace him. But on the season, Mitchell averages 5.1 rebounds. And lately, like all top players do once they get to the playoffs, he's upped his average. And so he has gone, today's over-under for rebounds is 5.5, and he has crossed that in his last 4 games. So every game in this series, but all 4 his last 4, and 6 of his last 9. I mean, the Cavaliers, they need his points, they need his assists, and they need his rebounds. So I'm going to go over the 5.5 on rebounds for Donovan Mitchell.
All right. So Donovan Mitchell over 5.5 rebounds. When I'm watching this series, guys, and Chipper, I'll start with you, and then Doug could respond and then go into his next pick. It's absurd to say when you look at his point per game average during the postseason, but I really think that Donovan Mitchell has to be a little more selfish if Cleveland's going to have a chance in the series. He tends to go into stretches where he wants to get everybody else involved. And yeah, that's a great thing in theory. But at the end of the day, I don't think that they could even come close to making this a competitive series, even though they've won 1 game already, unless he goes off for 40-plus points the rest of the series kind of thing. And just your thoughts, Chip.
I don't have any problems when the ball's in Donovan Mitchell's hands. I really don't. And I'd rather trust him than anyone else on that club. But, I said it last time, and I was wrong in game 2 as the Cavaliers bounced back and won. But look what Boston did in game 3. They lost game 2 to Miami and then came and dominated the series. I think more of the same is going to happen here. I just don't know if Cleveland can match up with this Boston team when, Boston did lose by 30 points or over 20 points, so they're vulnerable in that regard. They have to have a proper mindset. I think there's no more fooling around for them here. I think they know that this is a big game for them. They don't want to go back 2-2. And,
all right. So you'll get to more of that analysis shortly in your game pick. But Doug, again, your thoughts on what I said about Donovan Mitchell, and then get right back into your. And, at times, Doug, he looks unguardable. That's why I say that. I mean, it looks anytime it's a one-on-one situation, and it's very hard to double a guy on the perimeter like that. So, yes. And sometimes Boston's help defense has left a lot to be desired when he goes one-on-one. But anyway, your thoughts, and then move on to the next prop.
Well, the big thing that you notice about Donovan Mitchell, and this has been throughout the entire playoffs, how many points he gets in the paint. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's the most striking thing. So you mentioned about being unguardable on the perimeter. They're just anybody's having a hard time containing him just in general. So, the guy is just an outstanding player. He's doing literally everything he can. Not having Jarrett Allen certainly doesn't help Cleveland, but, it seems like Boston, is just the better team when they come to play. All right, so let's go to Dallas and Oklahoma City game 4. This was interesting to me. PJ Washington has been, you can make the case, he's been the catalyst the last 2 games in their victory, scoring 29 points last game, 27 the game prior. And so with that, I went and looked at their DraftKings, as it turns out. I went and looked at their over-under for points for Washington. It's 15.5. So I'm going to go with one of those. And it was, in fact, not only 15.5, it was on the under, it was minus 130. So even, that's how strong it was in terms of what the odds maker is saying. So I'm going to go with something that Ross loves to talk about. Okay. Trust the odds makers when you see something, okay? And take a look at this, because the other aspect, when you look at Washington, forget, the 2 games outstanding. Prior to that, in his last 11 games before these 2, he had failed to cross 15.5 points 10 times out of 11. So I'm going to go under 15.5 with PJ Washington on this one.
PJ Washington under 15.5 points tonight in Game 4 of that Dallas Oklahoma City Thunder series. Chipper, Doug, I'll correct you just on one simple term. I don't trust the odds makers, because I respect the odds makers, and there's a big difference. And again, it's not a criticism toward you. Right. And what I mean by that, folks, is when they put out an opening line, there's a lot of times something could look too good to be true. And more times than not in sports betting, if that's the case, it usually is. So I trust their ability to make an accurate line. I respect their ability to make an accurate line, but I don't fear them. And my big thing is think like an odds maker, not trust an odds maker. Think like an odds maker. Chipper, I don't have to convince you of that. And also, after you give your little spiel about the odds maker and the whole thing we just talked about seeing a line that doesn't look right. Get right back into your pick, which is going to be in the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers game, which currently Boston's an 8.5 point favorite and a total 207. Go ahead, Chip.
But, like I said before, I just don't think that other than Donovan Mitchell, that Cleveland really matches up with this Boston team. Boston's been the most consistent team the entire year, not only straight up, but against the points. Them and Oklahoma City were probably the 2 best against the number the entire season. And I think after that loss that they took in Game 2, like I said, they bounced back Game 3. They did the same thing against Miami. And, maybe this is a pattern with them, but I think they're going to be full bore here. I don't think they want to go. No, of course they don't want to go back to Boston even. So take a commanding lead here, finish it up when they get back in Boston. Most people expect them to walk through the East anyway.
Yeah. And,
Boston, Ross, we talked about how don't be so impressed by what you saw the last time out. And this is what bothers me about taking Boston here, is because these guys are professionals and the Cavaliers should rally and get together and give a monumentous effort for them. I just don't know if they have the goods.
Yeah. I mean, there's an exception to every rule, Chip, right? Yeah. And, you look at this line and it really, the odds makers are trying to tell you something here, because this is a similar line, if not identical, to what we saw in Game 2. Right. So the odds maker hasn't made that adjustment and hasn't been influenced by what they saw in Game 3. So why should we? And go ahead.
No, I was just saying, Russ, a lot of people play the zigzag theory. So you would anticipate this number to be a little bit lower because of the way they got beat. So they're probably going to be, geared up to come. And the fact that they lost the last game in the playoffs, I thought it was rather high. There might be a little bit more interest in Cleveland. That's why I am leaning toward the Celtics.
Yeah, Celtics minus 8.5 over Cleveland in Game 4 from Chip Chirimbes. And you know what, Doug? The zigzag theory, which was so effective for many years, if you look at recent playoff years specifically, that hasn't held up very well. And, if whenever you get a trend and somebody starts coming out with, look, the under has gone 17-1 in Game 2 of the series, whatever the case may be, if we know about it, the odds makers certainly do. And trust me when I tell you, folks, even though they make an accurate line, they take into consideration public perception to a small degree when making that line. Doug, your thoughts?
Yeah, and this one, Chip used some of the same points that I was just going to bring up. But my initial thought on this was, this series is so reminiscent of the previous series. It reminds me, 2 things: Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray, okay, and then the other one is the word deja vu, okay, because it seems like we're going down the same path here yet again. They how Boston just carved them up. They played angry in Game 3. That to me was the difference. So they came to play. Their skill level is superior. and that. So I'm looking at this game. Cleveland just doesn't have enough offense. So unless Brad Daugherty, Mark Price, and Craig Elo from the 1990s are coming back and are going to be in top form like they were back then, I'm hard pressed to back Cleveland on this one. I look for Boston to win this one by double digits and take a commanding 3-1 lead.
There you go. It's a majority decision, as they say in boxing, as these two guys both like Boston. And I got a pick in that game tonight, so I'm going to reserve comment. But in any event, I'm going to be looking at the Oklahoma City and Dallas game. And I can tell you this, folks, I didn't go over my records. 4-1 over the weekend, by the way. 2-0 in the NBA, 2-1 in Major League Baseball. NBA just continues to roll. Yeah. Tremendous streaks going on right now in the NBA. If I could find my record sheet, 20-7 with my last 27, 32-11 with my last 43, 38-15 with my last 53 in the NBA. That dates back to March the 19th. So been going good for pretty close to 2 months now. Basketball overall, back to that same date, March 19th, meaning college basketball, NBA combined, 60-28. That's 68%. So Major League Baseball dating back to August 4th of last year, 69-51, 58%. That 58% is going to be a lot of better than some people's 60-61 and 62% because my return on investment will be better because I don't lay big chalks. So again, you could find me at gamblersworld.net. You could find Chip at gamblersworld.net. Right now, the NBA, $195 will give you the rest of our NBA playoff picks right through the NBA Finals. And also, right now, you can get 4 days for the price of 3. If you buy a 3-day pass from any one of us, we'll give you the 4th day free. Doug Upstone, find him at DocSports.com. All right, let's get right to my pick. And thank you for being patient with us today, folks. The Dallas Mavericks right now are a 1.5-point favorite in Game 4 against Oklahoma City. The Thunder have lost the last 2 in the series to fall behind 2-1. Here's the thing, I was asked this on an earlier show, how much do you really take into consideration what you saw in the regular season, whether it be common opponents, matchups, whether it be head-to-head series, whatever you see in the regular season, how much do you transfer that over or transition that over to the playoffs? And there's certain situations I don't, and there's certain situations I do. And this is one of those I do, because Oklahoma City has gone 7-1 straight up this year off back-to-back losses. Now, why I say I do, and I think this translates well, they've only lost 3 games in a row once all season long, okay? To me, when a club does that, that shows their level of resiliency, and it also shows their level of consistency, and both apply to Oklahoma City. Now, I was also brought to my attention in those 8 games, they played some bad teams, but if you look at the margin of victory against those bad teams, and you also look at the fact that they were a heavy favorite in those games, and then you consider the fact now we're catching 1.5 here with the underdog Thunder tonight, takes on a whole new meaning. Oklahoma City, they did give up 105 in the last game. That's still pretty darn good defense. They weren't very good in Game 2 at home defensively, but overall in the playoffs, 96.7 points per game allowed, 41.1% shooting by the opposition. And it's not like Dallas is shooting the lights out in the series. The first 3 games, they've shot only 43%. What's killing Oklahoma City right now is their inability to hit 3-point shots over the last 2 games. They're only 20 for 60 in their last 2 games, which is terrible, 33.3%. But in Game 1, they were 16 out of 35, which is 45.7%. And Dallas, over the course of the postseason, has allowed opponents to shoot 37.5% from beyond the 3-point line. You look at Oklahoma City's overall numbers throughout the course of the year, and even through their first 5 games they played in the postseason, they're a much better 3-point shooting team than we saw in the last 2 games. And I think we're going to see more of the norm tonight. I would be shocked if Oklahoma City isn't around 37 to 40% from 3. And the other thing, again, I've mentioned this time and time again, folks, when you handicap basketball, whether it be on the college level or in the NBA, you can't discount looking at free throws. What the percentage of free throws teams are hitting, how many times they're allowing teams to get to the free throw line per game, how many times they're getting to the free throw line per game. Well, Dallas hasn't had a problem getting to the free throw line in this series, as they got 74 attempts, which is almost 25 per game. The problem is making them. Yeah. They're 50 out of 74 from the free throw line in the series. That's 67.6%. That's a good winning percentage against point spreads, but it's not in the NBA when it comes to free throws. And when you're predicting or you're looking at what you think is going to be a very close matchup, obviously the odds makers think so. Look at the line. Free throws come into play and sometimes could be a determining factor. We just can't ignore this, especially if Dallas has a lead late in the game where Oklahoma City has to try to extend the game by fouling, and their ineptness at the free throw line. You can't discount that. And by the way, since 2013, all number one seeds in the NBA playoffs that are down 2-1, and they're facing a seed that's 4 or higher, like Dallas is, 5-1 straight up in those situations. So it's not occurred much where a number one seed is down 2-1. Since 2013, it's only happened 6 times, and the number one seed has won 5 of those 6 outright. And the reason why I bring up the straight up stat here, Chipper, is because it backs the number one seed as an underdog in this situation. I'm going to take Oklahoma City here plus 1.5, Chip.
All right, this is going to be my top release of the day. I have a side. It's the only game I'm actually putting out there. And but I have some few comments to make about this Oklahoma City team. All year long, the concern was their youth, how young they were, and playoff pressure is so different than they're playing during the regular season. You've seen Holmgren looks like a different player now than he was, he had such great outings prior to this. But, these two teams here, the 6 previous meetings before the playoffs started had all gone over the total. Now they dropped the total tremendously in the playoffs because, like we said, everything tightens up. And now 3 of the 4 have gone under. So the last 3 have gone under. I look for this game to stay under the total again. And the free throws by the Mavericks have certainly don't help if you're looking for a high scoring game. But that youth and the inexperience of Oklahoma City may be coming to fruition here. They've lost 3 in a row. You said they hadn't, or they lost only once?
Ross? They only lost 3 in a row once all year.
Yeah, well, they had the best record in the West, so that that stands to reason. But tonight, I think this is going to be a tough defensive affair. I look for the game to stay under, but I do have an A play on this Dallas and who they play, Oklahoma City matchup.
And you can get that right now at gamblersworld.net. You'll find Chip Chirimbes there. Doug, in my neck of the woods, they call them Utes. Them Utes on Oklahoma City are play pretty damn good defense. Anyway.
Well, what I'm going to talk about is a combination of both of what you guys have said. In this one, Oklahoma City has outshot Dallas in each game. What the Thunder have not done, though, especially in the last 2 games, they have lost the rebounding war decidedly. And the other thing you mentioned, even though Dallas has not made a normal percentage of their free throws, they have gotten to the free throw line more in each instance and made more free throws. Now, Oklahoma City is an excellent defensive team, but the thing I look at least this is from a matchup standpoint, is that other than Holmgren, the rest of the guys that they have are guards. So basically, their starting lineup is 4 guards and Holmgren. Holmgren is not a physical player. So if I'm the general manager going forward, this has nothing to do with this game. I need a partner for Holmgren. Okay, to that end. Now, here's the thing, though. Dallas can play a lot of different ways, and we have seen that. They can play really fast, and I think they're playing slower now because it's not advantageous for them to play fast against Oklahoma City. And I also think Luka Doncic knee is a problem. So the thing I noticed about Chip talked about their youth. Well, the one thing I've noticed is that they have become a little impatient when the 3-point shot's not falling. And so with that, when they're going to the basket, they're taking it too deep, and so they're getting shots blocked. They're taking what becomes errant shots because of the size of Dallas around the basket. So instead of settling for, let's just say, call them open 15-foot jump shots, they're just not taking them. Now, Luka Doncic, right now with his knee, he couldn't jump over a ruler. Okay. So there's just nothing there. But all he's doing, he's getting great play from his big men. Kyrie Irving has stepped up, and he still is an effective scorer. And I just like the fact that they have so many different ways that they can beat teams. I think the Dallas experience is the difference. And you had some great trends and talk there, Ross, about Oklahoma City. I like the fact that the Mavs are 12-4 against the spread at home, having won 3 of their last 4 games, winning by an average of 5.5 points per game. So even though Ross and a lot of sharp guys, okay, are on Oklahoma City, I'm going the other way and taking Dallas to extend this series to 3-1.
There you go. So those of you out there who say we agree too much, here's a prime example of not. If anybody disagrees with me a lot, it's Doug Upstone, and it's okay. That's why I love him on the show. That's why we're pros. So we're not trying to two-sided game here, folks, okay? We're giving you our honest opinion from our perspective, but our official pick on the game is from me, Oklahoma City, plus the 1.5 over Dallas. Our official pick on the Boston-Cleveland game is from Chip Chirimbes. He likes the Boston Celtics, lay the 8.5 on the road against Cleveland. Don't be scared of laying the number on the road. Don't be scared of the zigzag theory because it hasn't been very good of late. And then we go to Doug's 2 props. PJ Washington under his point total of 15.5 points, and Donovan Mitchell over his rebound total of 5.5. There you have it, folks. Don't forget to give us a like. It goes a long way, just as a small token of your appreciation for the time, work, and effort that we put in to bringing you a quality podcast each and every time. And our main goal has been and will always be to make you a smarter sports bettor today than you were yesterday. And don't forget to subscribe. It costs you absolutely nothing. Just click that subscribe button. If you're on your PC, you'll see a WC logo in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That serves the same purpose. And while you're at it, and that goes for those of you who have subscribed, which we appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't done this or you're new, go into your YouTube settings and click on the alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting channel, and you'll be notified immediately upon any of our 5 podcasts weekly going up on our channel. Chip and Doug will be back on Thursday, as I'll be off on Thursday. I have a doctor's appointment to attend to. These guys, just like last week when they put up a nice show, and Chip told me off air that everything ran much more smoothly without me. Well, they'll get their opportunity to do it once again this Thursday. Guys, thank you. Appreciate you both. And have a great week. And I'll be back tomorrow with Jesse Schule and Sean Higgs. We'll be discussing more NBA at that time. Take care and God bless, folks.